Hi, I'm Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub, and today I'm honored to be joined by one of my brothers in law enforcement, although from Montgomery County, Officer Sean McCoy, who works in Lower Moreland Township, keeping us safe right across the border in Bucks County. The reason we have Sean here is because he was out to lunch with his wife off duty when something very, very special happened. He was called into action. Sean, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
I understand you worked last night, is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
All right, so we really appreciate you being here, and we'd like to get you out of here so you can get some sleep. But could you tell us a little bit about your background? How long have you been a police officer?
I've been a police officer for a total of about 15 years. 12 years with Lower Moreland. Before that, I worked in Darby Borough in Delaware County.
Ah, tough town, Darby Borough, and Lower Moreland's is a very nice town. I grew up in Southampton, right across the border there, County Line Road. And I think what people should realize is that whether you have your uniform on or you don't have your uniform on, you're really always a police officer.
That's right.
And could you describe the scene for us, where you were and what happened when you had to spring into action?
Well, my wife and I had decided to grab lunch at the P.F. Chang's over on 611. And we got to our table. We were seated in a booth in the back corner of the restaurant. We had placed our order, and just as they delivered our appetizers, I felt a tap on my arm, and an elderly woman in the booth right next to us had stood up and was trying to get some assistance from me. And initially I wasn't sure exactly what was going on because she wasn't giving me the universal choking sign. She had her napkin over her face. So at first I was like, are you bleeding? Are you hurt? Like, what do you need? And it was actually my wife suggested, is she choking? And as soon as my wife said the word choking, the woman was looking at me and just nodded. I was like, oh, okay, you're choking. So I stood up and I said, do you need help? And she said, yeah. Well, she nodded yes, and she turned around. I mean, I think she knew exactly what she needed too. So I told my wife, go ahead and call 911, and I started doing the abdominal thrusts for the Heimlich maneuver. About 4 or 5 thrusts into it, she tapped me on my arm, so I stopped and I stepped aside from her and I just asked her, like, hey, are you okay? Like, can you breathe? And then she started breathing, and then she told me, I think so. So she was talking, she was breathing better at that point. So whatever, was stuck in her throat there seemed to have dislodged. And then she sat down, and we waited for the EMS to arrive and check her out.
That's really incredible. I take it you were not wearing your uniform.
No.
She picked a lucky person to tap on the shoulder.
It was just a good thing I was there. I was just happy to have been able to be there to help.
And credit to your wife, actually. She saw the signs, she read the signs, and she was the one who called 911, but you immediately sprung into action.
Yes.
So I have to ask you, and I ask this question of a lot of people that we talk to, a lot of officers that we talk to, what went through your mind when you were confronted with this lady who was clearly in distress?
Just that she needed help, and I could help her out.
Did you give it a second thought, hey, I'm off duty, this is somebody else's problem?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And maybe you can answer this and maybe you can't, but why is that? What calls you to service?
Just that wanting to help. I mean, I tell people this a lot when they ask me, like, why I wanted to be a police officer, and what I say is I'm one of those kids that wanted to be a cop when I was a kid, and that just never grew out of it. That was always what I wanted to do because I wanted to help people, and I wanted to be out there trying to make a difference and do things to protect people who need it.
And I understand that even as we sit here today, and this was at the end of March, I think, right?
Yes.
That even as we sit here today, we don't even know who that lady is.
Nope.
And I take it if you had to do it all over, you'd do it all over again exactly the same way.
In a heartbeat.
So this is the great part about this, is Officer McCoy is there just with his wife, out to have a lunch. He's not wearing his uniform. He's always on duty. Is that fair to say?
Very fair.
So the angels are among us, whether we know they are or not, and we can never take their protection for granted. So I, for one, want to say thank you.
Don't mention it.
This has been Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub. I've had the privilege of being with Officer Sean McCoy of the Lower Moreland Police, who had the good fortune of being next to a person in distress in P.F. Chang's right down the road in Warrington. Here's to you, to being kept safe every day, even when you don't know it. Be safe.